Casual Magic has been brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can get cool stuff. Use the code CASUAL to get 5% off of your sale. And then also by Coalesce Apparel, where you can get really cool t-shirts and stuff, and use the code CASUALMAGIC to get 10% off your sale. And by Archidect, a deck hosting website that doesn't really sell anything, but they like me and I like them, so kindly use them. And now, on to the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivam, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc., Coalesce Apparel, and Archidect. Today, it's a special one. I mean, they're all special ones, I'd like to think. I love all my children equally, all one of them. But today, my friend Jonathan said, hey, you know what? I had a lot of fun coming on your show the last time. Let's come back. And I'm like, I am always for people coming back.
Yeah.
So, you might remember from a few months ago, back when Kamigawa dropped its soundtrack, I had Jonathan Young, the composer of the entire Kamigawa and Capenna soundtracks, come on and talk about the music and everything. And it was cool. And it turns out this dude's a big dweeb and I like him. So I brought him back. And this time there's no soundtrack. So we can just talk cards.
To be fair, I don't mean to correct you, but I was not the composer of the whole thing.
Fair.
I was the
compiler.
I was the music director.
Producer?
Executive producer, kind of. We didn't really have I didn't get a plaque or anything that had my title on it. But
the gatherer of all the musicians to put together into it.
I just don't want to accidentally take credit for some of the beautiful composition that was done by other people.
Say this much then. I've definitely been jamming Kamigawa for months now. Yeah. And I really, really enjoy that entire soundtrack. So job well done.
Thank you.
And
we had so much fun. It was such a wild, ambitious and beautiful project to be a part of. Both of the soundtracks. Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, I'll be honest, it's like still kind of like I look at the product, like the marketing schedule around Kamigawa and then around New Capenna, and I'm like, did that happen? It was so weird and so out of ordinary for Magic, and it was so cool.
I'm still disassociating, I still have like crippling imposter syndrome about it because I still have this weird disconnect where my job as a music influencer is like there's a wall in my mind between my hobbies and my job as a singer on the internet. So the fact that like those cracked for a moment and suddenly I was working for Magic while also like trying to climb to Mythic every night on Arena is like, what is happening?
It's so weird. And it's just like, and I will say this, the Capenna soundtrack was so different from the Kamigawa soundtrack.
Yeah.
I did not expect that at all.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know that you just were hiding a torch singer in there. You know?
I had so much fun with that one, man. That was like I don't want to talk down about the Neon Dynasty soundtrack because obviously it was a ton of fun but like jazz is like I've been waiting to do something like that with jazz for years. I was playing in bars in Minnesota singing like Billy Joel and like jazz, like jazzy,
jazz standards,
like jazz standards, like piano kind of like stuff like that. Long before I ever started singing or playing Magic.
So you're telling me you went from being a torch singer in bars in Minnesota to being a YouTube metalhead who sings anime songs and then puts him to like double bass.
Listen, man, it's
the world is weird.
It's a long, complicated story, and I know your fans want to hear about Magic sometimes. I don't want to dive too far into that right now. But,
I'm just saying,
yeah,
you got off the highway at some point.
I did. Man,
look, I'll be honest, and we'll get to the Magic's here.
Yeah,
obviously that's all we ever talk about. But listening to your metal sea shanties is a field I did not expect I desperately needed in my life. Turns out I do, and turns out I really, really enjoy them.
Well, first of all, thank you. But second of all, I mean, it's really interesting. Uh, I d I don't know how to segue into this, but the metal sea shanties are very similar to kind of like my thoughts about a lot of this like magic and the soundtracks and a lot of this stuff, because like there's all of these things on the internet that people don't realize
Mm,
there's like a huge void or demand for. There's like and I think the magic community is a great example of that, because there's this beautiful ecosystem of all of these content creators and people who are making all of these incredibly creative um things, and um you don't you don't get that if you're thinking too much like a suit, if that makes
mm,
sense. I don't know how else to put it, but like there's kind of this mentality in the music industry, in the film industry, in the the children's trading card industry, whatever industry it
mm,
is, there's kind of these like these boxes that people put things into. Like for example, rock and metal music is
mm.
traditionally very masculine and very much about like machismo and
Right.
uh especially in America. In Europe it's not quite
Yeah.
so,
I
but
mean, Opeth is right there.
um right, but then like you give people something completely out of left field, like heavy metal sea shanties or a soundtrack to Magic the Gathering Kamigawa, or one of these, you do one of these crazy things and suddenly you've like invented a new niche on the internet, and now like that might be the biggest thing. And
Like
I
Gladiator showing up on Arena?
yeah, like and sometimes uh like sometimes that's just culture. Like that's just how culture happens, and it happens a lot faster now that not everything is decided by the tastemakers at the top of the corporate food chain, and the fact that we can kind of do these grassroots things like organizing these different pieces of content that people in these different sub niches of internet culture
Mhm.
are into, whether it's Magic the Gathering or D&D or whatever. Like, and I mentioned that to tie it all back somehow so we can get back to back to
Well, I
the
mean,
thing that your fans came for. When I pitched the idea of doing a Magic soundtrack to them, one of the first things that I explained to them is that there are YouTube channels out there with singers, some of whom are friends of mine, who are making like original songs based on their D&D campaigns.
yeah.
And they're like pulling out a lute and like singing like a bard, people are calling it bardcore. Like there's like a whole niche for it now, and these songs are getting millions of views.
It's so
And
crazy to me.
I went to the people that I got in touch with at Wizards. I was like, look, there are musicians who are paying their mortgages basically making fan songs
That's so
about your franchises. And this to me is a huge signpost. You know, this is, someone just passed you a blue rare on pick 5. Like, start picking blue, man. Like, this is, people are telling you that this is something that you should invest in with their time.
Well, yeah, it's you're exactly right, and the internet especially has made it so easy for people to find these things that they're into, where before it would have been
Yeah.
just the one weirdo in your D&D group who's sitting there writing filk about your game, and now it's like there's a whole ecosystem built around this, and you can find it and plug in. I mean, the same way when you look at, if we're going to go back to Magic, if you look at even like things like CEDH or like
Yep.
Gladiator or Pauper or any of these random like subgenres of Magic that before like, oh, it's a local like Oathbreaker, it's a local thing they play in Minneapolis, and now it or Canlander. It played on one island in Canada, and now it's a huge thing worldwide because the people have been able to, find each other and
Yeah.
then build that community and then make an awareness known that this is a thing we want and this is a thing you should be catering for us so that we can give you money to do. And Wizards, they're slow on the uptake, but eventually they got there. I mean, they started making Commander stuff left and right now, right? Like after decades and decades of like, people are buying our stuff, but they're not coming to F&M. I don't understand what's going on. Oh, you mean they're playing with cards at home? What? Are
Yeah.
you allowed to do that? And now they're like, hey, what if we just made cards for those people?
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, they sell out all the time. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, but that's a really clever way of like being able to at least bring some completely different take on like because like look, it's one thing to be like, yo, I've got a new way to play with your cards. Everybody's got that. That's like that's magic. We've got 500 ways to play with these cards.
Yeah.
It's another thing to go to the property and be like, we I would like to bring to you something that is so deeply orthogonal to what you're doing that you would never have ever thought of it. Like, hey, what if we approach magic as an idea that somebody can write fan music about? And you're like,
Yeah. Well, if you think about it from a different angle, it actually becomes a lot more appealing to like the capitalist corporate whatever.
mm,
You know, like and I'm not a big fan of capitalism, but if
look,
we're
man, we
gonna
gotta eat.
if yeah, if we're gonna take that angle, like if you look at what like Marvel is doing,
Mm.
if you look at what Riot Games is doing, if you look at some of these other IPs, you know, I always tell people, and look at Secret Layers, you know, look at Secret Layers. Like when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, uh a bunch of Led Zeppelin songs went to the top of the iTunes charts.
Ah.
In a Marvel licensed album that had Guardians of the Galaxy's name on it, that album went to the top of the iTunes charts and stayed there for like 6 months, which is crazy. And then, you know, Riot comes out with Arcane and wins like an Emmy or whatever with it. And like League of Legends is like not even, you know, like I used to play League of Legends in like 10th grade or something, like when I was 14. Like
You are not that much younger than me. You
I've
cannot be that much younger than me. I
well,
refuse.
League of Legends is like 15 years old now, but I don't know. I don't want to date myself too quick, but he's like Googling. But
2009.
yeah, so I would have been in ninth grade in 2009.
Oh.
Sorry. Yeah.
That's the sound of me vaporizing before your eyes.
They do call me Jonathan Young.
Jesus Christ, man, I'm gonna kill you right now. Where was I
Oh
in
man.
2009? I was already married in 2009. Wait, League came out only in 2009? I felt Dota came out before that. That's what.
Yep, Dota came out first.
Yeah, because
But yeah.
I remember when
So,
Warcraft 3 came out and I was like, these hero units suck. Why would anybody want to play them? And then
yeah.
someone's like, what if we just take that and just make that the game? And I'm like,
Yeah, that's the whole game.
never gonna catch on.
Yeah.
And
But
now the
anyway,
entire
so
continent of Asia.
what yeah. What's happening though in the entertainment space is that people are realizing, I mean, it all kind of started with like Star Wars making more money on t-shirts and action figures than it did in theaters.
Yep.
And you can see this tipping point where George Lucas funded The Empire Strikes Back with merchandise money,
Hmm.
and then everybody suddenly realized like, oh, now every filmmaker in the world is in the t-shirt and toy business,
Sure are.
right? And it's kind of the same thing. The deeper we get into departing from the monoculture with the internet, and the further away we get from uh you know, whatever our culture looked like when radio and movie theaters were still the thing, the further away we get from that, the more we're going to see Disney and Marvel and Hasbro and Riot and all of these, Amazon, you know, with Lord of the Rings now, the
Hmm.
more we're going to see people, you know, you've got your toys, your movie, your video game, um your dubstep album, and all of them have Spider-Man in it,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
Spider-Man's name on it. You know what I mean? It's like we're going to see more and more of that with every passing year. And I'm telling as many people as I can so that when it happens, uh, people will be like, wow, Jonathan Young, he had a hot take back in 2022 and he was right. But
Well, I mean, we've seen, like, for instance, Spider-Man, the animated one that came out a couple years ago that had the theme song sung by famed Commander player Post Malone.
yep, which was also at the top of the charts when that song came out with the movie.
Incidentally, when Posty had his thing a few weeks ago where he played a random person and gave him $100,000 for beating him in a one-on-one Commander game, that
Yes.
person immediately became the 4th highest earning Magic player of all time.
Wow.
One game better than literally every pro Magic player ever.
Wow. That's crazy.
That says something, but I don't know what it says about us as a culture.
That reminds me of some very long video essays I watched about the bubble of the pro scene and
Mm,
how like there's a huge population or like percentage of the Magic community that it like is not at all interested in the pro scene, but they aren't involved in like the Twitter
yeah,
discourse. So like people kind of forget that all of those people are even there because they're
yeah.
not active, like
That's
actively
literally my
talking.
demographic, man. That's, like, who I'm talking for. So,
Yeah.
like, this past weekend when I was out with my friends playing some Commander, they invited one of their pals to, join us, and this is a dude whose engagement with Magic is, like, played long ago. I have a couple of decks worth of things, and he came and he brought this deck. He had, first off, no idea who I was or what the CAG was or the rules committee, anything, and I was like, "Perfect, let's go with that." And, he sits down, he's like, "Yo, I got this deck. Every card in this deck is a card that was given to me for free." So it's literally it's a Grim blue black deck. Every card in it was something that was handed to him. Like all my friends are like, psychopaths. They just give me their bad cards that go in the deck, and I just build it. And I'm like, that's amazing. You're
Yeah.
just built like he's got these cards that are like foils or Pro Tour stamped. All these things are just random chaff to him, and he's playing it without sleeve, just kind of like the way God intended on the title. I'm like, look at this. This is pure magic. This is a dude who knows enough about the format to be able to build a deck. It has like, is it in my color identity? We're good. I don't care otherwise. I'm like, I love you. You are exactly the dude I need to be talking to.
That's
Cause like
amazing.
it's blood. I'm like, because we're so invested, we're so engaged, we're so deeply in this online circuit that it's so easy to forget that the people on Twitter are like 1% of like the giant sea of Magic players.
Yeah.
And 99% of those people do not give a crap who we are, what our drama is, what CDH is, what EDH is, what then they're just like, yo, you know what? I buy a pack or three a year and then I put them into this deck. And eventually I get take it to a store and someone's like, yo, that card's banned. And I'm like, really? Why? And then they go home and they don't care anymore. And they just
Yeah.
jam and they play. And it's like, what?
Yeah,
What?
I mean, it's interesting to think about because I mean, a couple things come to mind, like just piggybacking off of that. Like, I mean, first of all, I have two local play groups here in San Diego, two separate like little bubbles of local friends of mine that I play Commander and sometimes casual with, um, and most of them are really good players.
Sure.
Uh, like maybe a couple of them are spikes, and none of them have Twitter accounts. None of them ever comment on YouTube videos. Um and that's just my own personal circle. So if like 90% of the people that I actively play Magic with like on a regular basis aren't involved in the discourse at all, how many Magic players are out there just lurking that
Right.
and that's kind of a scary thought, but it's also a cool thought because it kind of makes you take a step back from maybe some of the Twitter arguments or whatever it may be and realize that um you know maybe your pet card getting banned in modern or whatever isn't as big of a deal as in the
Or
grand scheme of things.
maybe that there's a much bigger field out there than just you that the people who are running it have to
Yeah.
think about.
Yeah.
Like, hey, maybe we're banning these cards because they're wrecking the tables of players you've never heard of before.
Yeah, because that's another thing. I mean, it's like it's weird, man, because I think that um psychologically, I think that it people have once people get like attached to a competitive game to a certain extent, it's like hard for them to separate themselves from their standing, like how much they're winning or like what their standing is in the community or whatever. Like some people get really wrapped up in that, but I think if you take a step back from that, it's like it can be really healthy to just like disconnect for a second and be like, you know what? There's going to be like my pet card got banned. I'll find another pet card. They're
Right.
printing a lot of cards now,
Turns out there's
like,
30,000 Magic cards. I'm sure there's another
yeah,
one.
yeah. And I don't know, man. It's weird. Like I go through these phases where I'll get like very deeply invested in the game and I'll start getting super spiky. I'll hit mythic. I'll get really salty about the meta game on arena or something. And then I'll burn out, I'll stop for a second, and I'll introduce a friend to Magic for the first time. And it's like everything is different. Like my joy for the game gets completely reignited. I'm like looking at cards in a completely different way. Um,
I
I
I
don't know.
love that one of the lessons I learned from Andrea Mengucci when I had him on, one of the most important things he said was like, I was like, "How do you not get tired of Magic? You're Mengu, you play every Magic." He's like, "When I get tired of one format, I switch to another one, and then I
Yeah.
have good time again." And I'm like, what an idea. It turns out
Yeah.
just like a farmer, when your field is starting to get a little tapped out, move to the next field and let this one rest for a couple of years and come back to it. It's not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. Like
Yeah.
I can go play modern, I can go play pioneer, I can go play EDH, CDH, PDH, whatever the hell. And it's great. Like when you're
Yeah.
tired of this and when you get tired of a draft format, wait a week and there's a new one.
Yep.
Like,
Or cube on arena. Like
ah,
I was
that's true.
jamming the cube,
Dude,
you know?
Minskin Boo is the most busted goddamn card.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realize because I just read it briefly when it came out in Baldur's Gate. Did you know that that thing gets a hamster every turn?
Yeah. It makes a 4/4 every single turn.
How disgusting is
4/4
that?
haste trample every turn.
That it can throw and draw 4 cards.
Yeah, and if you don't kill it, it's a what, a 7/7 the following
It's
turn?
absurd.
Yeah.
That card is stupid.
Yeah, I was picking that a lot in cube.
Yeah, it
I
turns
was
out,
picking
like,
that a lot.
when somebody played against me, I'm like, are you kidding right now?
Yeah.
What do you mean it says every upkeep? It's like I love those cards where you sit there and go like, "Oh, I missed a line and now this
Yeah,
is disgusting." Um, have you been playing any Dominaria United?
I have.
What do you
Uh
think? I love this format.
yeah. I really like it. It's hard. I'm still kind of coming off of how good Neon Dynasty Draft was. I I'm still like
It
recovering
really
from that
was.
bliss of how pristine that format was.
I feel so bad for New Capenna because it doesn't matter how good or bad that was. There was no way he was gonna live up to how
Yeah.
good New Capenna
Yeah, but
Neon Dynasty
I
was.
have been having a lot of fun. I have been having a lot of fun with the draft. I ran out of gems last night. So I took a break. I'm playing Explorer now with the new Dominaria cards and loving it. The fact that Lily of the Veil is in Pioneer and Explorer now is like I feel like somebody pinch me,
And
like I'm
Allied Painlands.
oh
Finally,
yeah.
we have, like, ability to play Allied colors. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
alright, sell me on Pioneer Explorer, man, because I need something
Sell
else
you
to
on
play.
it.
I need something else to play on Arena, and
Oh,
I don't have a
dude.
standard deck,
I'll
so
sell you on it. Okay. So, you were just talking about, you just tweeted. I saw this. I will argue this with your own words, Shivam. So you just tweeted about like, what's the format where I take a draft deck I love and add a couple cards,
Yeah,
and then that's the deck.
yeah.
That's Pioneer. You take your favorite draft archetype and you add a couple more good cards that have come out more recently than 2012, and so and that's it. So like and uh so it's, you don't have to be such a spike that you play modern. you don't have to be such a spike that you're memorizing all of these different sequencing things with like fetch lands plus Mishra's Bauble and all the like uh Ragavan. You don't have to buy any $100 cards if you want to play it in paper. You could
Uh,
say, you know what? I loved the samurai in Neon Dynasty as an archetype. I'm just gonna try to build a samurai pioneer deck and see how good it can be. And you like almost every pioneer deck is basically a draft archetype from a relatively recent set where you just add a couple more rares from and it's amazing because it's the perfect format. I'm going into salesman mode now. Like I'm gonna sell you on these formats. um I think I mentioned this the last time I was on your
yeah,
podcast.
you went off on Pioneer. It was
uh
awesome.
I love Pioneer, man. uh it's the best format to get casual players into an eternal 60 card format, because of the exact same reason. They can take their favorite standard deck or their favorite draft archetype and just push it a little bit further, get the brain juice flowing and explore. Like, okay, I really like ninjas in Kamigawa. What are some cards from the past 10 years that would play well with Kamigawa ninjas? And let's like explore some new cards in a 60 card setting that isn't standard. You learn about new cards that you didn't realize existed. You play more casually than modern, but less casually than standard.
Hmm.
Uh, there's no rotation, which means you don't cry when your favorite standard deck. Because man, that was killing me. I could not stand seeing my standard decks just get taken apart. You
I
know,
mean, like, that to be honest, that was one of the big selling points of Modern for me was like, "Oh, I can take my favorite standard
same.
deck and I can play Modern." And then the thing is though, like, within minutes, Modern was suddenly just like, "Oh, what if we instead just made decks that were the best possible cards that existed
If
instead of
that
your standard deck?"
if that is why you liked Modern, like
20 years
six
ago when it started, right? Like,
well, before Modern Horizons 1, it was kind of possible to
yeah, it
I
was,
mean,
but it also yeah.
like the like my first Modern deck in um 2014, 2015 was I upgraded Theros Standard Mono Black Devotion.
Hmm.
And it wasn't amazing, but it was
Fine.
Thoughtseize into a bunch of good black beaters and then gray merchant. Like it was a pile. um but it was fun, and I sometimes I took some games off people, and I got to I that's how I learned about Phyrexian Obliterator for the first time.
Oh.
And like you find these new cards that stick with you forever, and then uh and then you like I was getting my sister to play Magic the other day, and I was explaining to her how devotion worked, and I was like, wait till you hear about Phyrexian Obliterator. It's like you it's I don't know, it's like I'm getting too mushy with it, but it's like
Well, basically, what I wanna do is I wanna take my runes deck that was the hotness of last standard
yeah.
and port it to Explorer,
I mean, that sounds like an amazing idea.
'cause I love that deck. A lot of people are like, "Oh god, that deck is just bad combo." I'm like, "No, you don't understand. I love combo, and this deck
Yeah,
just goes ham and wins, and it either
I
wins or
think
it
you should
loses."
do
That's
it.
why I play it.
And Explorer is the perfect format for that, man. Like,
As long as it's not historic, because I do not wanna deal with stupid alchemy cards. That is the
well,
thing
yeah,
that just
that's
makes
that's
me
the whole
saddest.
point. That's the whole reason why people are playing Explorer instead of historic, is
Yeah.
because
Dude,
yeah,
once they got to the Baldur's Gate thing and they're like, "Okay, now take this legend and discard a card and you can get one of 5 other I'm like, "Nope. Nope, that is a lot of text, and
yeah,
I appreciate your innovation, and I will leave
yeah.
it to somebody who cares."
Yeah, I need to be able to play with them in paper,
Yeah,
like
like, I
but
wanna be able to
yeah.
build this deck and take it places, It's like, so what are you playing right now?
So uh I'm playing Explorer Jund, and it feels like the glory days
Well,
of
yeah, now
of
that you have
modern
Lily.
Jund. Yeah, so there's the new Goyf in Dominaria is not really well suited for like traditional Jund strategies. You'd have to play that in like more of like a dredgy type thing.
Hmm.
But I'm playing. I got Lily, Scavenging Ooze. I got Kolaghan's Command. I got Chandra, Torch of Defiance.
Hmm.
Fatal Push, Thoughtseize.
Wow, that's a real legitimate, like, you have
I'm a
bolt in
happy
there.
man. I'm a happy man, you know. And then I've got my spicy tech is Bloodthirsty Adversary.
That's the
Uh,
new one from Crimson?
it's
No?
yeah, it's the 2-drop 2/2 haste from Crimson Vow. When it enters the battlefield, you can pay 3 mana, 2 in a red, any number
Oh,
of
Midnight
times.
Hunt, not Crimson, whatever.
Yeah. And then you Snapcaster Mage.
Oh,
Um,
that card.
yeah, so you play Kolaghan's Command, and then you bring back Bloodthirsty Adversary from your graveyard to your hand, and then on turn, then you play a Chandra, Torch of Defiance, and then
Hmm.
you play Bloodthirsty Adversary, play Kolaghan's Command from your graveyard, get another Bloodthirsty Adversary back from your graveyard. It's disgusting. I love it.
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Uh, and I only see sadness in my future as I'm just watching this
Okay, but
loop
the rune
dance.
deck could be really good.
Yeah, like, dude, the rune deck. I'm not trying to say the rune deck is all angels and happiness. I realize that that deck is just as miserable as any other.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, man. Like, it feels like I'm playing against a different deck almost every game in
That's cool.
in Explore Ranked Queue. Like, it's really a good format for deck builders and jank right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing a lot of good mono green decks come up, and they look really fun. A lot of people have been playing Rakdos, and that just is like a real
Yeah,
gross deck to play against.
yeah,
Super annoying. I don't know. It's funny because, like, on Twitter, people get mad at they're like, "What do you mean you're playing something that's not Commander? Why would you play 60 card?" I'm like, "Because I need a break. Because
yeah,
I need a break. I need to see 4 copies of card in my hand. I need to know that I can play this and just combo off." It's
yeah,
like, "But you don't like combo." I'm like, "I don't like combo in EDH. I love combo in one-on-one."
yeah, yeah. I
Like,
mean,
you gotta have different formats for different mindsets.
yeah,
Like, when
I'm
we're
the
playing
same
Commander,
way.
we're just here to have fun. When I'm playing one-on-one with you, I want to watch your wife child cry while I
Yeah,
run your ashes into the ground, you know?
yeah,
Like your family needs to the tears is what helps me draw cards.
yeah.
So,
Exactly, exactly.
uh,
Yeah. No, I
oh
love
my
it, man.
god.
It's yeah, like you know, there are a couple really sweaty spiky decks in Explore right now, but um uh
Have you
I'm
seen the
seeing
Angels deck?
yeah, Angels is really good in historic. But again,
So
dude,
annoying.
it's just a standard deck.
It
Like
really is.
but that's the thing is that people are playing standard decks in Explorer and doing well.
I
And
feel like
that is really cool to me because it means that there is room to explore the format.
mm, yeah.
It's
Yeah, well,
called
getting
Explore.
Liliana must have been, like, the greatest day though, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the like probably single-handedly got me back into grinding 60 card formats is Lily getting printed again. Cause man, I could not keep playing modern after MH2 got printed. I just couldn't keep up with it. It was like too many cards that immediately changed the meta permanently.
Oh, yeah.
And
Everybody talks about Ragavan, but it's also the 5, like, elementals or whatever they were, Fury and all those
yep,
dudes.
yep,
That's in like, that cycle of 5 cards, like Solitude and just, like, Modern is now those things. That is
yeah.
it. It's
And
like
there's other things too, like that people don't really think about very much. Like the uh there's kind of this chain reaction that happens in competitive formats where, for example, Ragavan became the best card in the format, and now everybody's running these 1 damage ping effects.
ugh.
And now, because everybody's running these 1 damage ping effects specifically to kill Ragavan, now there's things like Dark Confidant that you can't play anymore
As an
because
Elves player, let me tell you what I think about these
yeah,
1 damage ping
yeah.
effects.
So, and the same thing happened when Hogak was legal. So, like
Mhm.
people were running surgical extraction in their main deck, so you just couldn't play Dredge, right? Like you just couldn't play Vengevine. Like because Hogak was the boogeyman, everyone was trying to fight the boogeyman, and there was collateral damage to all of these other strategies that have anything to do with the graveyard because of Hogak, or have anything with 1 toughness because of Ragavan. And um it's interesting how that works, and I kind of really got burnt out on modern because of that.
Mhm.
Because, dude, I had like foiled out modern decks that I was really happy with, and I looked at my foiled out Sultai Super Friends deck that I used to be like going to F&M like every week with this modern deck. I was in love with this modern deck, and I looked at it after MH2 came out, and I was like, I'm gonna have to spend $500 to continue
Mhm.
playing my favorite deck. You
Dude,
know,
I plan on
like,
bringing my I had planned on bringing my, Modern Elves deck to Vegas when events came back, and I was looking at it, and I'm like, "This deck is great," until MH2 came out, and now it's like, "Oh, this is gonna fold like a paper airplane
yeah,
to, like, every single deck out there, like, I'm just gonna get vaporized,"
yeah,
and, it's not a good time. I mean, have you seen the Archon of Cruelty? That damn card,
I believe I
it's
have.
like the 6 and 2 black 6/6 flyer. When it comes to the battlefield or attacks, target opponent sacks a creature or planeswalker, discards a card, and loses 3 life. And then you draw a card and gain 3 life.
Are people reanimating that?
Yeah, that thing is coming up and it's like either being reanimated or it's being Kiki cloned or it's being like
Ah,
just all like what you're seeing is people doing like the indomitable creativity decks basically, which is
oh,
that one
yep,
X and 3 red
yeah.
uh,
They're turning
yeah, they're
a
turning treasures
token.
or whatever into, like, an
Yeah,
Archon, and then you're like, "Oh, oh, that's
yeah.
not great," because it's, like, the only creature in the deck, so they're just like, "Alright, well, I'm gonna flip till I get a creature. Oh
Yeah,
gosh, surprise."
we're at the point where standard doesn't affect modern anymore.
Oh, not even a little.
You know? And
Mm.
that's kind of when I stopped being excited about modern, because I was the guy playing a C tier deck and constantly checking the standard spoilers, not because I played standard, but because I wanted to be the first person to turn my C tier deck into an A tier deck
Oh,
with
yeah.
the new standard card. And that's how I feel now about Pioneer.
Yeah,
That
like, I was looking at, Dom U and, Dominaria, when you look at this deck, the set, and try to find cards that are, like, modern applicable, there's, like, maybe the Merfolk Lord, maybe the Elf Lord, and, like, that's it.
yeah. But dude, Pioneer and Explorer, like, I could just like glance at the cards in Dom U and give you like 10 of them off the top of my head that are like you could build an entire Pioneer deck around. Like, here, Raven Man. You
Raven
could
Man.
build a Pioneer 8 rack deck that has never been built before right now around Raven Man, and it might be incredible. It might be the next hollow one. You know what I mean? It might like this card is gas. Put cyclers in with Raven Man, discard cards in your opponent's turn.
If a player discarded a
Yeah.
that's gross.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh,
I
get
was
some
talking with
madness
my
going
editor
on.
about this. Yeah. Madness. Channel from Kamigawa counts as
Oh,
discarding. Yeah. See,
oh,
this is
hmm.
Pioneer. Welcome to Pioneer, Shivam. It's incredible. Well, the water's warm. Jump in. Yeah. Like, now we got Liliana, we got Braids, Arisen Nightmare you could
I
build a
hate
deck
Braids
around.
so
Yeah,
damn much.
that's a really
That card
disgusting
just
card.
gross.
We have what else do we have here? We have an Elf Lord. Elves
Yeah.
could be amazing in Pioneer now because of Leaf Crown Visionary. We have the Merfolk Lord in blue.
Okay,
Um,
go with me on this journey for a second.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you got Namada, the Primeval Warden, right? This thing's like a 3/4 tree folk that when a creature opponent dies,
Yeah,
controls dies, you get a sapperling.
it's Kalidas.
Yeah, it's Kalidas, but for Slimefoot. Now, what if you had 4
Oh,
Slime Feet and 4 Nemadas and a whole bunch of old Dominaria, like,
bro.
aristocrats, green, black aristocrats, Fungus Town?
You're selling yourself
I'm
on
just
Pioneer.
saying.
Why are you coming to me asking for excuses? You're already coming up with these ideas. You could be the dude. I can see it now, dude. You're gonna be like the top of the Pioneer leaderboard in like 2 months, man.
Oh man, here we go. The You know what? Like Commander is my forever home, but you need to take a rest. You
Yeah,
need to be able to walk away from that and be like, I need to look at something else for a minute, and so that you can come back. Otherwise, it's just because like burnout happens to all of us, especially when this is your job, right? Like when this is the
yeah.
thing you focus on all the time. You need to have a hobby away from your hobby so that you can have like something for yourself. right?
Yeah.
Like I bake bread, but you don't see me tweeting about bread all the time. Like this is my hobby. Like
Yeah.
I don't need to be on bread Twitter and like talking about bread DH and like competitive breading. Um
Yeah.
Now I don't want to know about competitive bread. Don't tell me, please. Um oh my god, can you imagine?
Oh,
Have you played any Commander lately? Because God knows there's a lot of new commanders.
I have been quietly doing a little brewing, but I have not played too much
I'm just
super
saying
recently.
Baldur's Gate is like the sleeperest set I've seen in a long time. Everybody's like, "There's no dock side in it. Forget this set." And I'm like, "Yeah, but there's 1,200 cards that are going to be in like Commander forever, and
Yeah.
you should check them out." So,
Yeah.
can I tell you about a combo that I just
Yes.
was introduced to by
Please
my friend
do.
Logan? So there's a card called Jan Jansen or whatever it is. It's a Mardu gnome thing. It's from Baldur's Gate, and what it does effectively is you can tap it to sacrifice a treasure to get two 1/1 constructs, or you can tap it to sacrifice a like an artifact creature to get two treasures. So it's a nice little exchange it's got going on.
Yeah.
Now, there was a card in SNC. Uh, Let me find this specific matter. It's called Rose Room something. It's easier to find because there's not that many cards called Rose. Rose Room Treasure. So this was an ogre warrior that was put out in New Capenna Commander, which says whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, create a treasure token if this is the first or second time this ability is resolved.
Uh-oh.
Otherwise, you pay X and it does X damage to any target. So what I'm saying is you sack a treasure and you've got the Rose Room thing, so you get two constructs and you get a treasure. So you're doing it for free,
Yeah.
and then you can untap this thing and go to town with other like little untap. It's like it's not an infinite combo, but it's cute enough to be really annoying.
Yeah.
And if you've got, for instance, I don't know, Reckless Fire Weaver, where every time an artifact comes to play, you ping someone.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, pew, 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 pew,
Yeah. It's
pew.
a soft loop. Yeah.
It gets
I
really
love it.
stupid. It's like that's the sort of thing that I love about Commander. Like
Same.
when you sit there, like I want to find these things that are like synergies that are cute that show up randomly, and you're like, oh, damn, that did something hella cool. Like
Yeah.
like the deck I built last time, this thing from Mazi. Mazi is this commander that lets you put auras on other people or on other things, and when an aura you control dies, it comes back, it gets exiled, and you can recast it. And there's a one mana casting cost, like wild growthy type thing from Kamigawa that was no, from Kaladesh, where you can
Yep.
sacrifice this card, draw a card. So
Yeah.
when
I
you got
love
that,
that card.
you've got that plus Yavimaya, which turns everything you got into forest. Suddenly, what you're doing is basically tap a forest, draw a card. It's gross. And when
Yeah.
you've got like 30 enchantresses that say like when you sack it, when an enchantment goes to graveyard, draw a card. When your enchantment comes to play, draw a card.
Yep.
I'm drawing like 7 cards mana, and it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
I win. Ah, mm,
Yeah. That's amazing.
it feels good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that about Commander, man. That's
We need to play again. It's been too long.
yeah, we do.
I
I
mean, I
need
feel
to
like you've been busy with tour. Like, actually,
yeah.
how did your like live show go?
It was good. It was good. We played at Dreamhack Dallas, and yeah, I mean
Yeah, like I
it
wanted
was
to come,
cool.
but I was at GP Orlando
Yeah, yeah. I
or
mean,
Command Fest
you know,
Orlando, whatever.
it was a fun time. I spent most of my time in the command zone actually. I, I mean, because I was there all weekend, and we just played one show.
Well, yeah, I mean, you might as well
Uh,
spend your time jamming games while you're there, right?
yeah, so I was mostly I jammed a couple games with CGB
Mm,
and met a couple other people. I ran into Voxy there and
cool.
Talia.
Wow, it's like everybody who wasn't at whatever that
Yeah,
Command Fest
I
was.
met Cedric too, and I actually bought your shirt from him. Yeah,
That's so cool. I
yeah,
appreciate that.
and it was kind of nice. It was when I was like I went there, I played my show, and I had my fans there, and then I left to go play in the command zone, and I was the fan of of all of these people. It was kind of
You're like,
funny.
nobody knows who I am here. I'm safe.
Yeah, I felt like such a like weirdo. I went up to Cedric. I was like, "Hey man, you probably don't know who I am. Like I'm a big fan, and but like you might have heard about something I did through magic or whatever.
Dude,
But
Cedric sponsors my show, and
yeah.
I'm still like that with Cedric.
Oh
Like,
man.
we have a relationship, and I'm
Yeah.
still like, "I'm your biggest fan." And it's like, "Okay, let's not." But
Yeah.
no, Cedric is amazingly cool.
It's
He's
funny
so
too,
cool.
because I followed him on Twitter after I met him, and it's weird, going back to kind of what we talked about
Mhm.
at the beginning. It's like I'll always see him posting about like these pop punk songs,
Yeah, right?
and it's awesome. I mean, it's just weird though, because it's like like
Yeah.
the worlds are crossing, because he'll like post about a pop punk song, and then I'll like get on the phone with the guy who produced that pop punk
Okay, well,
song. It's like, this is
that's
weird.
that's really okay, well, that's a flex right there,
I
bro.
little baby flex, little baby flex.
Like, we're like,
But
"Yeah, man, I love Paramore." You're like, "Oh, yeah, I was jamming with their guitarist 2 days." I'm like, "Okay, bud, I
uh,
guess."
yeah, I haven't met Paramore's guitarist, but not yet. But we'll see.
But we'll see. But
Yeah.
patience. Um, man, it's good to talk to you again.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. God, it's so we are currently in the worst heat wave California scene. I'm in the northern part of Cali, he's in the southern part of Cali, and we're both dying.
Yes.
Like, because we're both in tiny recording sheds trying to
Yeah.
talk to each other. Uh, how's the music going?
It's great. I just finished all of the recording for my first full-length album
Oh,
with the same guy who produced My Chemical Romance and 3 Days Grace and a bunch of these
emo
bands that
bands?
I grew up listening to. Yeah, like Hot Topic bands.
Look, man,
Warp
they
Tour.
spoke for a generation. It wasn't
Yeah,
my generation, but it was a generation.
yeah, yeah. It was mine. So, um, so yeah, it's been super crazy. Disassociating, kind of
Yeah.
doing that, and
But it must be so cool to go into, like, a real recording studio and, like
well, it's
well,
funny you mentioned that.
do you work with session people, or did you do it all yourself?
So I did everything myself, but
Sweet.
it's funny that you mentioned that, because we actually kind of like for the first couple songs that I did with them, I like I carted up to LA to their super fancy recording studio, and we did some songs up there, and uh it was kind of like one of those things where we were like, man, we're spending like upwards of $1,000 per song on all this fancy gear, and John could probably just do a lot of this from home, and we could so like the first like 4 or 5 songs were done on with like the fanciest equipment that money can buy in one of the nicest studios in LA, and then the second half of the album is like, or
In your
not,
basement?
yeah, it's just here in this room that I'm talking to you in, because it was like, yeah, like technology is at a point now where it really doesn't matter if you're in a fancy recording studio.
Well, I mean, as long as
So
you have all the instruments you need and you've got it all set up so that you can make sound. Obviously, you do this professionally every day,
yeah,
so your setup is not it's not like the olden days when recording in your garage sounded like a garage, or like,
yeah,
recording Weird Al's album in his bathroom or something, right? Like,
yeah.
you don't have like the echoes and stuff. It sounds cool. So,
Well, and it goes back again to circling back. It's like the way that technology and the internet is now. It's like uh, for $200, you could get everything that you need to start recording a podcast today. you know
yeah.
like for 500 bucks, probably less, you could get everything that you needed to make a heavy metal album today. And with the way that the internet is now, it's like you could distribute that album, market that album, publish that album, uh make all the music videos. Like we converted my garage to a music video filming space, and uh there's really no functional difference between what we have in there than like renting out hundreds of dollars an hour for a warehouse with a couple of cameras in it, which is what you used to have to do.
Hmm.
um but yeah, so I always like to kind of, whenever it gets to that topic, I always like to just, if there's anybody listening who's thinking about like starting a podcast or a YouTube channel talking about magic, or even if it's something outside of magic, a different hobby that you have, whether it's D&D or music or video essays or whatever. Do it.
Yeah, hang
You
on one
know?
second, because this triggered a memory that I need to tell. I need to tell you right now.
Yeah,
So
do it.
because there's this, so in India and Pakistan, there's this thing I've been telling you a bunch of. This called like Coke Studio and Nescafe Basement. Basically, what these are is like um, all these big drink companies from Americas go to these places and make giant like folk studio, like folk fusion with like modern techno instrument type of like, I don't know, TV shows that just create new original music from these countries, and it's amazing. And so Nescafe Basement is like the little brother of Coke Studio because it's Nescafe, not Coca Cola. And they went and found a bunch of like, random underground acts and up and coming indie singers, and they have them do their songs on the show, and it becomes cool. They found this kid named Abdullah Siddiqui. He was like a 17-year-old from Karachi, and he literally had an iPad, and on his iPad created an like IDM song called Resistance, which is just one of the sweetest songs. Like, it was super sick. And he made this song and it became hella popular. He did the entire programming. He taught himself English, and then he taught himself how to like, write music with an iPad and do all the production work and everything. And it was so good that when they went and put it on the show, they were like, we're just going to take your song and play it straight and just have like professional musicians just play exactly what you made. So it's not at all like we're
Yeah.
not reproducing, we're not technoing or changing it. Whatever you did on your iPad is literally showing up, and it's got 4.2 million views. It became one of the biggest hits in Pakistan and India. The kid went and became like, playback singer and showed up in all these other big like shows and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, like at home with an iPad in
Yeah.
Karachi where you got electricity every third day, right? Like
Yeah.
people come to me all the time like, yo, what equipment should I use to make a podcast? I'm like, literally your phone is fine. What
Yeah.
you need is not equipment. You just need patience and an idea and the ability to do that.
Yeah.
Because you have all the equipment you ever need right now on your phone. Friggin' Mark Rosewater does a half an hour podcast twice a week out of his iPhone in his car. You can
Yeah.
do better than that.
Yeah.
Just saying.
There you go.
Yeah. Anyways, man, it's been great talking to you again.
Yeah.
If people wanted to find you, where could they go?
Jonathan Young Music. Search for that on whatever platform you're on.
Yeah. Maybe you're already one of the million people who subscribe to him on YouTube. Multi-millions.
Yeah. Maybe. Actually, I mean, going back to again, over half of my views come from non-subscribers.
That's
so
annoying.
Well, I mean,
it's fair.
Is it though? Because I mean, it's annoying, but it's kind of like the magic thing. It's like, you ever wonder how many people might be fans of you that don't follow you or aren't Patreon supporters?
It's funny.
You might have 500,000 fans that you just don't know exist because they just don't comment on your stuff. You know
what's wild? There's this random show I watch on YouTube called Wilderness Cooking. It's this guy in Azerbaijan.
I've seen it.
He's got a 4K. He's got like drones and 4K cameras, and he's hacking up like cow ribs. And like, you know what? I'm gonna build a tandoor because I want to make a thing. And I'm like, who the hell are you? Deep in the heart of nowhere, literally a village, and million friggin'. And I was like, I realized yesterday I watch this guy's videos every night to go to bed because I'm just falling asleep on the couch or something. And I hadn't subscribed because they weren't showing up on my YouTube recommends. And I was like,
you're one of them.
Where did my thing go? And so I went and I subscribed to him because I was like, I can't miss. I'm a vegetarian. However, I will watch this man like take the like lungs and ribs out of a sheep and put them into a box that he built all day long.
Yeah.
Why? I have no idea. The dude seems perfectly nice though. And he's got 4K cameras in the literal middle of nowhere. So I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah.
NGL. But yeah, so everybody, you should check him out. John is awesome. His music is great. I'm a big fan. I have become a fan of your music since we last talked because I've actually started listening to the rest of your stuff. I really enjoy the covers of things like Moana and things like that because I'm of a demographic that has a child that listens to those songs a lot. So hearing versions that don't make me want my ears to pop makes me happy. And your voice is really good. I like your voice a lot.
Thank you so much, man.
But as always, if you want to find me, you can find me at Gear Up Where He Gears. You can find the show anywhere podcasts are sold, or at Cool Stuff Inc. every Tuesday, or at YouTube every Thursday. Thank you, EK. And once again, my friends, the show is brought to you by Cool Stuff Coalesce Architects. And remember, my friends, it is not magic without the gathering, and we will see you